Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play in School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. Today's call features Jake Robbins, VP of Showcase Baseball Academy in Charlotte, North Carolina. Jake spends time telling us about, and you can tell he takes serious pride in, the mission, vision, and values of SBA. I know there are many teams out there that have not solidified these for themselves. Hopefully this conversation inspires at least one coach to attempt to define what their organization stands for. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk. Before we get into today's episode, I want to announce a brand new addition to my website. The resources and deals page found at playinschool.com/resources features a curated list of products, brands, and services that I recommend and endorse. These are all items that I believe can have a positive impact on coaches, players, and parents. There's a variety of items ranging from baseball-specific training tools to marketing automation and social media tools that I use to power my business and could easily be used by coaches running facilities or teams. Playinschool.com/resources will continue to grow with more recommendations as time goes by. I put this page together for the travel ball community in an effort to continue to bring you value. I can guarantee that you'll recognize some of the brands, but others will be brand new to you. As you read through the descriptions, I hope it becomes clear why each recommendation is listed. Let me share a couple important details. Some of these brands will be giving you discounts if you go through my links or use the provided coupon codes. That's awesome. Additionally, some, but not all, of these brands will provide me with a small referral fee for helping promote their products, but that won't impact what you pay at all. Rest assured that these are all brands I respect and endorse, regardless of any referral fee. Again, visit playinschool.com/resources to check out the new resources and deals page. All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Today we got Jake Robbins on from Showcase Baseball Academy down in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is probably the third or fourth time we've been down to the state of North Carolina, and for you travel ball folks, you ought to take a peek at the map. If you pull up a map of the United States as far as where college baseball is played, I'm going to go out on a limb, I think, and Jake maybe will back me up on this. I think there's more college baseball in the state of North Carolina than just about every other state out there. So between the tremendous Division 1, 2, 3, JUCO, everything else, all located. They play at a high level at every level of college baseball. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit. But Jake, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today, Rich.
Yeah, no problem. We're going. I've got a few bullet points we're going to get to, but first, for those who aren't terribly familiar with Showcase Baseball and with Jake, with yourself, do you mind giving us the quick the quick background on your background personally, as well as sort of where Showcase Baseball came from, the foundation, and then maybe the speedy version of catching us up till 2019 when we're recording this?
Sounds good. So personally, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. Graduated from Myers Park High School. Committed with Ray Tanner when he was at NC State. Before, I think I'd have been there with him for 1 year before he took off for South Carolina. But the summer before going to NC State, I got drafted by the Yankees and decided to go ahead and sign. Spent 14 years in pro ball. Got to the big leagues with the Cleveland Indians as a pitcher. And after 14 years of playing, I decided that was enough. I met my lovely wife. We have 2 daughters. And when I did so, I jumped into the teaching world of baseball. The game became fun again, helping kids through the game of baseball, spiritually, physically. A lot of times I'm a psychologist, so helping them mentally. So 10 years, I guess I spent 3 years at an organization on the other side of town, and then I've been here at SBA for 10 years now. John Owens and I partnered together 10 years ago, and my new partner, Will Simmons, bought him out, and we have since then brought in 2 additional partners in Travis Thompson and Matt McCammon. Each of us bring a different benefits, to the business, and it's been a great partnership here at Showcase Baseball Academy. So really enjoy what we do and helping the kids. Baseball is really just the foundation of it. Each of us really enjoy seeing the growth in the kids and helping them on and off the field. So that's my elevator speech up to the 50th floor.
Awesome. Now, I do want to kind of a good jumping off point. I saw somewhere on the website, I think it was right on the About Us or the Mission and Values page is where I was. And one of the things that jumped out at me on the values, y'all are putting your faith right out there. You got on the values, you've got God listed right there on top, and that kind of brings to mind a couple past guests who are kind of combining the faith with the baseball. And we've had great conversations with Mario Jimenez down at Inspiration Academy down in Bradenton, and Keith Wall with out in Colorado with Valor High School and Complete Game Ministries. So why don't you spend a couple minutes talking about sort of the values that you guys have as a facility, as an organization, and maybe tell us, how ingrained that is, and if it's sort of a mandatory situation for the players and families. So talk to me about that.
Okay. So, it really starts with the priorities, with God being at the top, your family being second. For the kids, it's all about their academics, and, for us adults, what you do as an occupation, a job, a career. And then fourth on the list, for the kids is the athletic piece. So we believe, when you're having your priorities in line, good things can happen. So for us, the player fulfillment is what we talk about more than player development. So fulfillment is on and off the field. And when we can help a kid spirit, soul, and body, you've got to win in every area. So once a month we get together and we call it His Show, talking about God's show here at the Showcase Baseball Academy. And so on the third Monday of every month, we have the kids come in. It's optional; they don't have to do it. So the kids come in and we have a quick devotional. We have an activity. We buy them pizza, and they get to run around. And so it's important to us that, the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go and he won't depart from it. So it's important to us to instill those values into the kids. And, obviously what we do, we want to win on and off the field. That's a part of player fulfillment as well. A lot of people want to talk about, fielding a baseball properly or hitting a baseball a certain way. And they kind of leave the winning part off of it. And in our opinion, God wants you to win. He wants you to be victorious on and off the field, and then careful to give him, the glory, honor, and praise. So this past Monday, or 2 Mondays ago, my dates are getting mixed up here, but we were talking about the priority piece of it and putting God first, and how he wants us to be successful. He does care. Now, we don't pray to win, because what if the other team's praying to win? So, you're praying for safety and that he gets the glory. I was telling the kids how I hit my first home run when I was 11 years old, in a game. And on the way home, my dad asked me, "Hey, who gets the glory?" And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Who gets the glory?" I said, "Well, God does." And he does, because he's the one that gave us the ability to play the game. And so it's not in our own might and power, but through his ability that he's given us. And so to put things into perspective, you can actually take pressure off of the kid and his trust and confidence in the Lord versus his trust and confidence in himself. So those are, again, priorities is the big piece of what we're doing here at SBA.
I tell you, I appreciate you sharing that with us. And while you're talking a little bit, I pulled up over on the website. There is a tab right at the top that says his show, and if you click on the chapel section, it looks like you guys have some notes that are downloadable from past. I think you said they were Monday night chapels, and each one of them is sort of titled with whatever value you guys are talking about tonight. I mean, you just scroll through some of these, and you look at respect, optimism, work, preparation, adversity, attitude. I mean, if these are some of the things you're talking about on Monday nights, you can't go wrong, right? So I applaud you for that. That's pretty cool, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that. Now we're going to take a left-hand turn, and we're going to talk about maybe where maybe there needs to be a little more cooperation, and what we're talking about here are kind of the three folks, if you will. Maybe not so much the three wise men in a player's life. Maybe they are the three wise men in a player's life, but you got coaches tugging on them from different directions. And I know you wanted to talk about this a little bit. You got your high school coach pulling, you got your travel ball coach pulling, and you got your instructor, your private instructor pulling. And you hope in a perfect world they're all pulling in the same direction, but we all know sometimes that doesn't happen. This was a topic you wanted to kind of expand upon, so I'm gonna kind of let you go.
Right. So it is important. I think number one, you have to have the buy-in, the work ethic from the kid and the parent. Number one, and then when that is there, there are different pieces to the puzzle where they're going to have different coaches, they're going to have different instructors. So working together is important, in my opinion. So starting on my side, I don't think that it is my duty to tell a kid where he can't play once this process begins, because ultimately I'm not the one making the decision. It's going to be the college coach himself. So I don't ever tell a player what he can't do, because I'm always encouraging him in what he can do. So once it gets to the point, if you got a kid that is throwing 80 miles an hour and he wants to go to Vanderbilt, that's not happening, right? But hopefully along the line, he's going to see where he fits in. So it takes a village, in my opinion, to help these kids. I believe that their showcase baseball is one of the avenues. Obviously, when you put academics before the baseball, in your priority line, the high school coach is needed as well. In my opinion, if each kid can get as many people helping him as possible, then it's a win. Hopefully, you don't have one person telling him that he can play at North Carolina and the next person saying, no, you can't play there. You need to go to a D2 school or a D3 school. But ultimately, now that the metrics of the game, the data that is applied to the game nowadays, I believe it helps all of us in the process. And the only problem in that is every July you turn on the College World Series and you see one of the pitchers or two or three possibly throwing 83, 84.
I know.
And then you have the parent, the kid saying, I throw 83, 84, I can go there.
Yeah.
So, the part that they don't see is that kid's in his 90th inning of the year or 100th inning of the year in this short season that the college baseball teams play, or that he's a specialist. He's a submarine guy, or he's got a really good breaking ball, or his spin rate is up. So there are those factors as well. But I think if you can get every piece of the puzzle or the pie working together and fitting jointly, you're only going to help the kid and the parent in this time that can create a lot of anxiety in their life. So honesty, obviously, is a big piece of it. You got to be honest with them. So but the metrics of the game can really show you where you go, where you fit in. Working with the high school coaches has been something that's easy in my area, for us. I've got some high school coaches that coach for me, coach with me at SBA, and Greg Simmons at Charlotte Christian High School, and Pete Hardy, who's at Alexander Central. Mike Makovich is our academic advisor. He's the head coach at Cuthbertson. I get to name the names. I hope I don't forget anybody. But the high school coach is very vital in the kid's life, and hopefully those guys are encouraging what their goals are, and at the same time, which could take us totally off on a different path. They're wanting to win ball games, and a lot of times the kid's trying to hit a double in the gap so they get seen by a college coach. Those two things don't necessarily line up. And then you got Josh Donaldson on the internet saying never bunt. Right. And then, so, where is this game going? So we teach kids to be good teammates. And in my opinion, I see high school coaches, parents, instructors, showcase coaches. I try to get us all on the same team with the kid. And then, again, good things can happen when you get those pieces of the pie in their place.
Without throwing anybody under the bus, have you had any, maybe recent or not so recent situations where you found that the high school travel and the instructors weren't kind of pulling the rope from the same end?
Well, I think the difficulty in doing that is just everybody finding enough time to jump on the phone and touch base with each other. So, most of the travel guys in this area and the high school guys in this area are good baseball guys. And you don't need to jump on the phone with them everybody should be saying the same thing when talking to a kid. Occasionally you don't have that. And I think it's more, when the kid is in a certain setting. For me, I was telling a couple guys last week, in a bullpen in the wintertime, I never threw the ball over 89 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you get to spring training and it's 93, 94. Your adrenaline kicks in. Mm-hmm. You're outdoors, it's a little warmer. Things. So just this past week, I had a kid on video throwing the ball 85 miles an hour. And he goes to camp at a local college and he tops out at 82. So I think when you have those different elements that the kid is performing in, different variables that are applied, you have the kid responds differently. And so they're so fragile in that area. What kind of breakfast did they have? What did they get sleep the night before? Yeah. Were they more fired up for this event than that event? And so when coaches see them in those different settings, me, for example, the video is helping us tremendously now because I was able to send it to the college coach and say, this is what he was on Thursday. Yeah. I know he was only 81, 82 on Sunday, but this is what he was on Thursday. And so they can see it. And, us baseball guys, everybody wants to see it with their own eyes. But when they can see it, they say, okay, he was that versus, I think the guy's kind of puffing his numbers a little bit. So, I'm off on a tangent a little bit here, but for the most part, I believe all of us want to work together because all of us want the best for each kid. And a lot of, just like anybody, or the Bible says, out of the mouth of three witnesses, or two or three witnesses. So, when the kid hears the same thing from 2 or 3 coaches, and when the college coach hears the same thing from 2 or 3 unbiased opinions or even biased opinions, they're more apt to believe it than if they hear it just from one.
Right. It's you're not going to get away. I don't think many kids in 2020 are going to not play high school baseball, right? There's going to be a few. There's some alternatives popping up, but for the most part, they're going to be playing high school baseball, and so there needs to be a relationship. Those kids need to have the high school coach in their back pocket, but they're also playing travel ball, right? And that needs to be a strong relationship there as well. And then hopefully everybody's on the same page. One of the biggest problems is with the arms. Right. And at the end of the day, listen, hey, mom and dad, if you're listening, take some ownership of this. You know how many innings your kid has thrown, and the kid knows how many innings a kid has thrown. So don't put one of your coaches in a weird position. Communicate, be open, and be transparent about that. If you know how many innings you're at, let everybody know. So we're not putting anybody in position to fail, or worse, to get hurt. Yeah, I think 10 years ago the relationship was a little more strained, the high school versus travel. But I think in the last 10 years, I think it's become way more cooperative, especially in many parts of the country where that same high school coach is also coaching during the summertime. So that only helps things. Well, listen, I know you had told me before we hit record, you're already kind of locked in and focused on summer 2020 and trying to figure out the events that you're going to be putting your older guys into. So you had said, hey, there's a little bit of a sort of a conversation or a debate, this thing versus that thing versus the other thing. So share with us, if you don't mind, share with us some of the sort of thought process that you're going through and what some of the internal conversation, internal debate between yourself and your staff members might sound like. Who are you looking at, and what events might you be considering?
So you want to compete on the grand stage, on the highest level. You want to put your top guys versus everyone else's top guys, and finding those venues and avenues is sometimes tricky. Number one, because you said at the beginning of the show, we have the most opportunity per state in the entire nation for whether it's D1, D2, D3, JUCO opportunities in college baseball here in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So, and for me, I sit back sometimes and I'm like, why do we leave the state?
Yeah, why
do you could between video and the amount of quality teams that are in this area and the number of number of colleges that are in North Carolina as well, we could sit right here and say, okay, well, this kid's 90, 93, 94, whatever it is this weekend. I can send it to Craig Bell at Florida, right? I can send it to Pepicelli at Cornell, or I can, if we need to. Why are we all traveling to Atlanta or Florida, right, to do this?
Yeah.
So that after I lean back in my chair, I'm like, goodness, we're all spending a lot of money doing it. So that's always a topic of conversation. You have the up and coming PBR that's attacking the Giant in PG.
Yeah.
And the running tournaments in the same weekend in the same city, next summer. So you're on the phone talking to other programs, and I've been on the phone talking to college coaches, and they're going to go where the good players are. So trying to navigate the landscape of where you should go as far as that is concerned. We always go to the Marucci World Series at LSU at the end of July every year. But with PG moving their 17U week later in July, that might make it a little bit more difficult for us to go down to LSU this year with our 17U club. And the most challenging thing, part of that is we won it. We won the Marucci World Series at LSU last year at the 16U level, so those kids at 17 want to go repeat. So when you're playing against teams like the Louisiana Knights and the Orlando Scorpions and the Sox out of Mississippi, East Coast Sox, you want to go play in those type of events. So navigating your tournament schedule is difficult sometimes. Managing the funds that everybody, the parent, and the amount of time they have to take off of work, and the amount of funds they're going to spend going. And then you always sit back every winter and say, gosh, we have a lot of baseball here in North Carolina. Let's stick around here a little more often. So it's a challenge, but kids like to travel, parents like to get out there, and there's some nice venues at Lake Point. Speaking of that, we bought some land here at Showcase. I haven't shared that with you yet. But
breaking news! Breaking news!
That's right. We bought some land here in town, and we're going through our due diligence period. conversations with the city council and the mayor and what you have to do, and it's to get this thing rolling. And the money is raised. And
what kind of size and scope or project are we looking at here? Are we one field, 5 fields, 10 fields?
4 fields and an indoor facility on site.
Holy cow!
Walking trails, frisbee golf course. So we're planning big things here at the show, and so we're trying to make this the destination for teams that want to come play here.
I tell you what, that's it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, and beyond just PBR and PG, you got a couple outfits who are running tremendous events in the state of North Carolina every single weekend. Between the impact guys, the dynamic guys, there's so many darn events. It's amazing anybody ever would leave the state. Now sounds like if there's a sweet facility, that makes it even more attractive. Let me ask you, I know Queens is in Charlotte, Queens University. Old Jack McDowell's the head coach over there. What D1 program would be the closest to the facility you're talking about? Would it be UNC Charlotte, I'm assuming?
UNC Charlotte in North Carolina. Winthrop is right over the border in South Carolina. Right. Good friends with Tom Regis and Robbie Monday and Austin Hill there.
Right. So, because where you're located kind of on the southern side of Charlotte, aren't you?
Correct.
Okay. Correct. So hosting an event, you could easily cobble together 2 or 3 college programs where you can host games. You have a 4-field complex. All of a sudden, you can host a pretty darn big tournament. Mix in a high school field if you need to. I know we had Charlotte native Jeff Schaefer on the show. I don't know, 20 episodes ago or so, and I know he's got a field he's working on, a knot hole, I believe they're calling it, which is, if I'm not mistaken, I think Queens University is going to play their home games over there.
Yes.
All of a sudden, there's going to be a lot of options, nice options for baseball events in the Charlotte area. That's exciting news.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, if you throw in within an hour, you've got Pfeiffer, Wingate, Catawba, UNC Charlotte, Winthrop, Lenore-Rhine. I mean, there are so many options for baseball in this area.
Yeah, that's a pretty dense 1 hour radius. Awesome stuff, man. Well, I tell you what, if the guys from Marucci are listening, we're gonna have to go ahead and send them an invoice, because I feel like they need to be sponsors of the show, because every single guest that comes on seems to be a Marucci team that's going down and enjoying those events. We had
it's a great event.
We had Rob Maida on the show from the Niners last week, and I guess that guy's quite the character. I don't know if you had a chance to compete against the Niners at the Marucci events, but I'm gonna be handing over the podcast to him pretty soon. That guy's self-proclaimed that he can talk the hind leg off a horse. So if that gives you any indication.
Well, I was reading something about him and the amount of caffeine he takes in a day, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, Earl Grey doesn't touch the coffee. Yeah. Anywho.
Okay.
Yeah. Anywho.
Yeah, the guys in Marucci are great, by the way. Kurt Ainsworth and those guys, Tana McClure, and they've done a great job in with building a solid business, beginning with the bats, obviously, and branching out into the team world and the tournament world and apparel world. And so, those guys are good guys. I competed against both owners in pro ball.
Cool.
And Kurt was with Baltimore, and Joe was with the Blue Jays at the time. So, they're good dudes, good guys out Louisiana.
And the latest thing is they're getting into the facility world now.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen down in Orlando, looks like Bob Reichman with the Scorpions opened up the first Marucci. I think they're calling it the Clubhouse, which looks
House, yeah.
Which looks beautiful, and I believe there's a second location already opening up. My assumption is that one's in Louisiana, but I don't know off the top of my head.
I saw one in St. Louis as well. So I think in the Missouri area they were doing something
right on
here recently.
There goes my sponsorship opportunity because I don't have the facts and figures right off the top of my head. Sorry, Marucci. Daggone it.
I'm gonna make a phone call and we get off for you.
Daggone. There goes my big shot. Awesome. Well, let's talk about we obviously I deal with the older age groups, which means the stresses of recruiting. That means traveling all over the country. It's in for some of these guys. What are you kind of thinking about the current state of travel baseball? Obviously, I love it. Right. That's why I hosted a podcast called Travel Ball Talk. But I recognize there's opportunities for some improvement. There's some topics that are sort of hot button items. What are the things that you're seeing and feeling right now as far as the good stuff, but also the opportunities for improvement?
The opportunities for improvement, if someone come up with a device that measures the heart of a kid, they'll make a lot of money.
Yeah, I was pulling my pen out to write down opportunity for, and then yeah, I don't think that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
Right. That's where the trust factor and the relationships with college coaches and all that comes into play, obviously. So, goodness, the landscape of showcase baseball in general and college recruiting, it falls on the kid, like we were talking about earlier. I believe that the weight room is underused. And Branch Rickey said this is the most overcoached, undertaught game, right? So yeah. I think the weight room is the most underused piece to this whole showcase baseball college recruiting landscape. Yeah. Kids need to get in the weight room. Yeah. So bigger, stronger, faster is always going to play.
Yeah.
And coaches are either smart enough, arrogant enough, confident enough that they can teach a kid to throw strikes, they can teach a kid to hit, they can change mechanics, but if you're not strong enough, it's not going to work. So that really separates the D1 athlete from the D2, D3, whatever NAIA athlete is. A lot of times is the weight room, and your academics and the weight room basically will tell the story and what your work ethic is. So when I'm standing in front of a group of parents, kids, whoever it is, coaches, symposium, I always talk about there's three factors. There's character, there's work ethic, and there's talent. And I mean they're in that order. Mm-hmm. And parents and kids look at me like I'm crazy, like, well, why isn't talent at the top? Mm-hmm. Talent's not going to get better without character and work ethic.
Yeah.
So, character, work ethic, and talent in that order are needed. And so what a kid does in the weight room is going to tell you what he's going to do on the field and in the classroom. What he does in the classroom is going to tell you who he is as a person. Mm-hmm. And so those three pieces of the puzzle, since we've been talking about pieces of puzzle and pies, I can't wait for pumpkin pie, by the way, on Thursday. But those pieces of the puzzle is very important, in my opinion.
Generally, the kid that's the winner in the classroom is the winner on the field, the winner in the weight room. The kid, and that doesn't necessarily mean the highest GPA. I'm talking about the kid who's putting in the time, who's putting in the effort. That kid is usually like that in all facets of his life. It's very unusual to find a kid who is a go-getter in one portion of his life that's completely lazy in another portion of his life. That's unusual. Mm-hmm. You don't just that muscle doesn't get turned on and off. You know what I mean? You usually you're either a go-getter or you're lazy. And it's I don't find that that you find a kid who isn't putting in the effort in one place that is putting it in the other place.
Right. That's correct. I mean, you listen to the speech from the Marine at the graduation at the University of Texas, and he talks about, first thing you do every day is make your bed. And I present that to the kids every single spring is, what are you doing first thing in the morning? Mm-hmm. And then I followed up with, let's talk about the word discipline. Mm-hmm. Is discipline a negative word or a positive word? Mm-hmm. And it's positive. You have some discipline in your life, that's good. Mm-hmm. And so if I challenge them, if I can get 1 kid, 2 kids, 5 kids to start making their bed first thing in the morning, it builds confidence. You accomplish the first task of the day. There's something about when your bed is made. It's not chaos. There's not chaos in your life, but you start to take care of things in order throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. Or marry somebody that does.
Right. Or sleep on top of your bed. Sleep on top of the covers.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Let's go back to the question that prompted this pretty good discussion as far as sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly of the current state of travel baseball. What else are you kind of feeling? What are you seeing out there? In your travels around the country doing this stuff, good or bad? And bad's not the right term. It's kind of good or opportunity for improvement.
The bad part for me is baseball is an individual game within a team sport. Yeah. And there's too much individuality going on in the game of baseball and showcase baseball, in my opinion. And so you have high school coaches that are wanting to win ball games that are preaching team. Yeah. And I think they wonder who else out there is preaching team, or are they just preaching, for the kid to hit the ball 350 feet, or to hit the ball 90 plus miles an hour, or throw the ball 90 plus miles an hour. This is a team game, and you may be the best hitter in the lineup, and you come up in the 7th inning with a runner on second base and nobody out, and your coach asks you to bunt. And you literally have kids look at you like, what do you mean bunt? Yeah. And as a coach, you want to look at him and say, I mean bunt. Get the ball down. I need this guy at third base with less than 2 outs. Because I want to win this ball game. This is not about you right now.
It's infuriating.
That's the tough part.
Part of it, mm-hmm. Part of it is the me first mentality or the showcase mentality. Mm-hmm. Part of it is the sabermetrics portion of it. But I look back at when Augie had Texas rolling, he led the world in bunts, and mm-hmm. I'm kind of like, if it's good enough for Augie, it's good enough for me. And the sabermetrics of a full MLB campaign simply does not carry weight for a high school season to me. I don't see how you can take those numbers of full grown men and say, hey, don't bunt in this circumstance at some high school game. I don't buy that.
Right.
And no. the never bunter has obviously never been to an SEC or ACC practice, because mm-hmm. if you had, what you would see is a ton of bunting. Yeah, SEC might go out and boat race somebody on the weekend, but when it comes to tournament time, it's all the Titans. It's all the best in the country, and it's oftentimes the small ball, the attention to detail, and the focus on those little things that will get you to Omaha or not.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's pitching and defense and execution.
Yeah.
And those you have to get guys over. There's absolutely times that we're going to let you go to the plate and drive the baseball. But so going back to it, there's too much individuality going on in the game, mm-hmm. and it stems from the top. Kids don't watch the game as much as they should, or as much as we used to. They see the highlights, which are either strikeouts or home runs.
Yeah, right.
And so the same thing's going on with basketball. They see the dunks, and they see how many Curry shot 12 3-pointers and made 10 of them. So the fundamentals, the real baseball kids will still love to practice. They'll love to work on the fundamentals. They'll enjoy the ladder drills with the footwork. They enjoy practicing. That's the bottom line. And so they see that those little, if you have a kid in a slump, I remember when I was a hitter all the way through high school, and I got a few pro at bats, but when I was in a slump, when you lay down a bunt, it makes your eyes track the baseball all the way to your barrel. And all of a sudden you start to see the ball a little bit better. Those are the things that need to be taught to kids. And so I think high school coaches are endeavoring to do that. And I think we are not teaching the game and what's going on enough so that kids and parents can grasp what is going on in the game and can kind of chill their anxiousness a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like a facility would benefit from having a couple of the new school data guys that love all the instruments and all these apps, and then also make sure they have a couple guys on staff that are old school dudes, who teach these kind of weird off the wall things that might have some reasoning behind it. Like, why is he bunting here? Well, he's in a slump, and we want him to track the ball all the way to the barrel. You don't see that in an app. That's not you're not gonna get that out of an app. Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah. Good stuff. Tell me something else. What else is cooking? What are you seeing? What's the conversation in the office or out in the facility?
This time of the year, a lot about arm care, a lot of the weight room. This kind of time of year you can work on your swing a little bit, change some mechanics of it. I believe when you're competing, it's tough to change a swing. It's tough to change a mechanic on the mound. So this time of year there's a lot of that. This is when the real baseball players come out, because they know that you can change a mechanic without throwing a baseball. You can really work on things and go through your delivery 150, 200 times in a short amount of time, looking in a mirror, doing some stuff with your bands, some movements. So that's what's going on here at the facility this time of year. A lot of communication in preparation for next spring and summer. You got some hot stoves going on. You got the ABCA in Nashville coming up in January.
Yep, right around the corner.
I believe our North Carolina hot stove is going to be I think it's in Greensboro, coming up here pretty soon. So there are a lot of coaches getting together, and in another business I was in a few years ago, I was selling a product, teaching the product, and helping companies offer the product to I guess the consumer. And so the interesting thing that I saw was how those companies actually had their own little pockets to where they would brainstorm and give each other ideas, and you would think they would be competitors, competing with to bring more of the consumers their way versus others, but they know that there's plenty of business out there for the people that are doing it right. So that's what I like about the ABCA and the North Carolina Baseball Association. There's a lot of coaches out there that really value the kid who wants to be involved in the game, and that it doesn't matter who's giving the information. Let's just make sure the right information is being given out.
Yeah, so, there's plenty of families out there. There's so many families who want to be involved in baseball right now that it's the idea of maybe having to hide what you do or not share with the guy down the street. That's silly. sharing what you're doing is, I mean, honestly, that's a big reason of why I do this podcast, is to try and get you to share one little nugget that some guy 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 miles, he might be able to take that and run with it. We've seen some instances of that, whether it be a tool that's being used, or whether it's a drill, or whether it's it could be something as silly as like Rob Maida last week was talking about Instagram, not for posting pictures, but for communicating with his players, and through the direct messaging. And I never even heard of that. I thought it was brilliant. So that's a big reason why I've been doing these podcasts, is trying to pull out one little tip or tactic and see if that helps somebody else, or maybe it helps somebody realize they don't want to be in this world, and that's okay too. Right. Do you guys load up the van and head down to Nashville for the ABCA in January?
I believe we were talking about it last week. I think we're going to go this year, myself and at least one of my partners, and we'll probably have a couple coaches go with us and spend the weekend over there and pick up some knowledge. It's something you can apply here in Charlotte. And I think that. What's that?
I believe it's technically sold out. So if you don't have your tickets already, you might want to include.
We do.
Okay,
we do.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. We're just trying to decide who's going to go.
Yeah, Absolutely. I got you.
Yeah. But I think, I try to stay away from the guys that are trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But you can absolutely go and hear somebody say something in a different way and figure out a better process to what you're trying to accomplish. I'm a big process guy. I don't want my pitchers to stand on the mound and throw strikes or try to throw strikes. I know that sounds weird, but for people out there listening, I've kind of got your attention now. But if you're trying to throw strikes, you're trying to do something that you can't control. And parents and kids look at me. What do you mean I can't control? What do you mean I can't control throwing balls and strikes? And I said, well, I can't either, and neither can Max Scherzer when he stands on the mound. And so they kind of look at me and say, well, who controls balls and strikes? And they're like, the umpire. I said, there you go. I've thrown pitches right down the middle before, and they were called balls.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not something I can ride the ebbs and flows and the highs and lows on balls and strikes. I said, because I need you to be the same pitcher every single pitch with intent on every single pitch. So for me, and those out there listening, if I was going to share one thing, it's I want to see my target and I want to throw through it. And that target is not where I want the ball to finish. That is my starting spot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the small spot that I'm focused in on is my starting spot. And now I'm going to make that pitch spin as tight as I can with intent through that small spot. And then there, if it goes where I want to, great, repeat it. Or if I want the pitch to finish lower, then I lower my spot. If I want it to be higher, then I raise my spot. But now it's about what I'm doing in my 8x8 on the mound. Am I repeating my rhythm and tempo? Am I repeating my timing? Am I focused in, dialed in on my starting spot? So now I don't have to worry about getting a breaking ball down and away. I know where my strike curveball spot is. Now I'm just going to lower it 4 inches, right? And I know it's going to finish 4 inches lower. Well, I'm going to move it over. If my catcher slides over, I can still go to that same spot rather than trying to make the ball finish somewhere. Now I have intent with the ball coming out of my hand the same way, with good spin. So we're not focused on balls and strikes here. We're focused on the process versus the result. And kids have really dialed in and taken hold of that. And I don't talk about walks because I don't care about walks. I don't care about strikeouts. I want one pitch at a time, and then at the end of the inning, we can assess what's happened. But I want one pitch at a time. I want there to be focus on getting hitters out of that box in 4 pitches or less. 13 pitches per inning, and so I think when there's a process put in place versus, hey, I want to get them out. Hey, I want to strike them out. Yeah, we all do. How are you going to do it? So having an idea, the next step is having an idea of what you want to do 2 pitches down the road. How when a hitter gets in the box, how are you going to get him out? This conversation can go on forever, but ultimately is putting a process in place, one pitch at a time, which we hear all the time, and then focus on the next pitch, but not trying to throw it to where you want it to finish, but throwing it through your starting spot, trusting your starting spot. That way you can trust your delivery and have intent on every pitch. So
cool. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I tell you, I think that's probably a good enough spot to end, and maybe we can revisit this conversation again in the future. I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any kind of parting shots of wisdom for any of the coaches out there who might be still tuned in to us?
Parting shots of wisdom. I think when you care about the kid first, and who they are, rather than what you can get out of that kid or that parent, but what you can give to them, then I think everything else will follow. It goes back to priorities. When you have your priorities in line and you care about the kid and who the kid is first, not the baseball player, but the kid, then we can impact a lot of lives in what we're doing through the game of baseball.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff, Jake. I appreciate you coming on today. I always make a mistake by waiting to the end, but all the show notes, links to the SBA website and Twitter will be at playinschool.com/Robbins, Robbins. Try to say that at the beginning and usually forget. Jake, it's been awesome, man. I appreciate you. Hang on one second. I'm going to stop the recording, but don't go anywhere.
Okay.
I'm having so much fun bringing these shows to you each week. If you'd like to recommend a coach for the show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a note at rich@playinschool.com or DM me on Twitter @playinschool. Again, my name is Rich Prado. I'm the founder of Play in School. My goal is to continue to create products and services that add value to you, the travel ball coaches, your players, and their parents. Visit playinschool.com to see some of the ways we're doing that. Or better yet, let's set up a call. Until next time, thank you for listening to Travel Ball Talk.